Story time, little kids.
Fendar's Legacy, Chapter 9, Part 2. Nemathis called together all the chemists and apothecaries in the city. They brought to the palace their various ointments and creams, and eventually found a way to soothe the itching and burning. But they couldn't do anything for the way people looked. Red, pink and purple blotches covered everybody's bodies, and they were repulsive to the eye. Michelle found herself looking down at the carpet, or the paintings on the palace walls, or anywhere other than the faces of the men and women around her. "He's gone too far," an adviser named Penwith told the king. He was a stately old gentleman who spoke with candour and authority. "If this continues, you will lose the support of the upper classes. We can't bear to look at one another like this." The others in the group, mostly men and women of the upper classes that Penwith had mentioned, muttered their agreement. "So what are you advising?" the king asked testily. "Let the confounded man take his confounded people into the confounded woods," Penwith said. "Once they get this nonsense out of their system, they'll come back and we can put everything right again." The others murmured in their assent. The king looked at Michelle. She averted her gaze. She still felt the king shouldn't give in, but she didn't want to push her luck. To say so in this crowd might get her into trouble. She glanced up, and the king was still looking at her. He wanted to know what she thought. She slowly shook her head. The king leaned forward in his throne. "So, my aristocracy can't bear the inconvenience brought out by Fendar's antics," he challenged. "Is it too much for them?" His tone was so thick with sarcasm that no one dared to answer. "I won't consider it," he said, as he slapped his hand on the throne's armrests. "We are fighting for the rights of all Palatians. If we let one man walk all over us now, how can we hold our heads up in the future? What will our children say? Will we be remembered as those who overcame the belligerence of the Mauritians? Or will they spit on our graves as those who caved into an inferior people? No, I won't entertain the idea of giving Fendar what he wants." The king dismissed the advisers. As they left, a servant slipped in and whispered something in Nemathis' ear. Nemathis nodded and cautiously approached the throne. "Sire, may I have a word with you?" he asked. "What is it, Nemathis?" Nemathis leaned close to the king, who listened and nodded and glanced at Michelle. "You're looking pale, Michelle," the king said. "I would like you to take a walk in the garden." Michelle was struck by the suddenness of the king's suggestion. "You want me to take a walk right this minute?" "Yes, it would be good for you." Michelle then realised what the king wanted. "Oh, I get it. You want to talk to Nemathis alone." The king smiled. "You are a shrewd child. So if you don't mind." Michelle felt a little hurt that she was being left out, but she said, "Yes, sire, if that's what you want. It will serve our purposes well. Thank you." Michelle walked out of the reception hall and down the long corridor that led to the rear of the palace. It seemed empty and hollow to her. The banners and tapestry hung in strips from the wall. Servants passed by with their heads held low and their faces covered. She stepped out through the doors that led into the large rear porch, and then down the long steps to the garden. It was another bright summer's day, and the flowers and trees were untouched by the chaos Fendar had created everywhere else. Maybe the king was right, Michelle thought as she took a deep breath. Maybe I needed a walk. The lawn stretched out as far as she could see. Circular designs of pavements and flowers led up to a large fountain, and off to the left and right were trimmed hedgerows and patches of flowers in colourful patterns, and dotted throughout were benches so that people could sit and enjoy the view. She found a bench well away from the palace itself and sat down. A bird sang in a bush nearby. The sound of the splashing fountain caused her mind to wander. She thought about the events that led up to where she was now. Not long ago she was just a kid wandering round the hippie festival at Trickle Lake. And now she was an advisor to the king, his guru. Apart from Namathas, she might be one of the most powerful people in the whole country. Psst! Michelle turned round. Over here, came a whisper. She looked towards a collection of tall bushes that had been designed as a giant maze. A small wooden sign said the maze was called the King's Labyrinth, and beneath that it said, "Amaze yourself with this royal delight. Delight yourself with this royal amaze. Lose yourself with a friend or foe. Find your way or ne'er be found. But don't despair when the hours wane. Look up, look up. The King's passage will lead you home." "Here," came the voice again, and a hand waved from the opening to the maze. End of part 2.
Dun, dun, dun.